Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Good. So RHOLM 22 for all that real good all 22 footage that Ryan cuts up for everybody. Got big folks following you now. I mean, the blue check mark is in the horizon, I think. POR SBR is my Twitter handle as well, so you can catch me there. The Raiders, a whole lot of things going on as usual. The flu has kind of hit the team right now, right? So I think Abram was around today, but they could have. I mean, Adams is not. So we could see. Hopefully, maybe Adams is. They probably told him to say, "Hey, just stay home until we really need you." I guess. Hopefully he'll be able to make that trip to New Orleans because they definitely need him for that. But they did make a trade. They made a trade from with Jonathan Hankins going to the Cowboys. What are your thoughts about that? I know you looked at that interior. Looks like maybe one of the draft picks is kind of coming alive here, and that's why the Raiders felt comfortable making that deal.
Yeah, clearly I've been a big Jonathan Hankins guy over his time with the Raiders. Clearly he's been one of their better run stoppers. He's been on a one-year deal. It seems like every year this regime brought him back on a one-year deal. But they drafted Neil Farrell Jr. basically to take that position and play that defensive tackle, the zero technique, the nose guard. And this last game, he was active against the Chiefs, played a little bit this last game against Houston. He kind of popped on tape with how quick he was off the snap and just plugging holes in the middle. And he had a couple of decent pass rush moves for a big guy. So clearly Hankins wasn't starting in this defense. It was Billings and Nichols inside the defensive tackle. So he was kind of that third guy coming in. Now you have Farrell take that spot. Clearly they're not replacing a lot here. Hankins was playing 15 to 20 snaps a game. So that's basically what they're going to have to do with Farrell. You can get Butler up. So one of those guys has been inactive pretty much every game this year. So this is going to give them an opportunity to get those two young guys in. And then they brought Kyle Pecco back on the practice squad. So if either one of these guys isn't doing well, then obviously they have a veteran guy who can come in and just be a run stopper if they need him to.
Yeah. So the Raiders trying to make some moves here. We do have some questions about the Raiders making moves as well, but let's start off with the all 22. So you kind of had some breakdowns here. You had the Raiders covered, so I think what I'm going to do now is just keep covering the opponent. So I got some Chiefs. I got some Chiefs. I got some Saints stuff as well. So first of all, let's start off with Dorsett. Dorsett gets a touchdown in I think late third quarter. Where was the breakdown there in that Palms coverage?
Yeah, they're playing cover 4 Palms here. Obviously, it's a quarters defense, but both cornerbacks are reading the inside receiver to see if he breaks short. If he breaks short and out, then those corners come up and play almost like a cover 2. The vertical route then becomes the responsibility of the safety. We saw Amik Robertson play this exact coverage beautifully against the Broncos, where he came up into the flat and made a couple of tackles. The issue you have here, you have Averett playing out wide, is the wide corner, and he's missed a lot of time. And then you have Merrick playing the deep safety. Is when Cooks comes in motion, there's kind of they get a stack formation. So who's 1, who's 2? That's going to tell the corners who to read. Clearly, Dorsett stays inside. So he is 2 and Cooks is 1. So Averett is actually reading the release of Dorsett, who gets vertical pretty quickly. So if 2 goes vertical, it's on the safety in this defense. So it turns into Merrick's guy. Merrick's backpedaling, and as you can see, his eyes are on the quarterback. He doesn't read the break on the corner route by Dorsett. Averett probably could have cushioned this a little bit better and gotten a little deeper, but he's responsible for Cooks, and this is 3rd and 7 running the out route. So he's got to be able to come up and rally and tackle on the flat if the quarterback wants to go there. So this is just this is Merrick in coverage. I saw a stat today. I think he's responsible for over 300 yards given up, and he missed time. He hasn't played every game, and he actually didn't start Merrick didn't start this game
Yeah.
against the Texans. They actually went with Harmon and Abrams. So Merrick's got a little ways to go. He's struggling right now. This secondary in this game against Houston really struggled with Averett, Merrick, some newer guys back there that haven't played together. So they're going to have to clean it up moving forward until Hobbs gets back.
Yeah, I mean, not great numbers as far as that goes for Merrick. Hunter Renfrow had a nice play. I think but basically set up by all this run action the Raiders have been doing. The Raiders have been really good at running the football the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is a great call. This is my favorite play of the game. This is Josh McDaniels dialing this up, setting it up. So the Raiders in the second half are running a lot of crack toss, getting outside. And what you had was the outside receiver then is responsible to come in and block the defensive end. And you see on this play, Hunter Renfrow's in the slot on the other side. He's going to run a beeline route, which is basically just a straight line route with speed across the field. And this is to attack cover 3. So in cover 3, the outside corner here that is over Mac Hollins is responsible for the deep third. But based on if you watch Foster Moreau and Mac Hollins here, they come down the block. So the corner sees that, he bites. He comes up and vacates the deep third. This is an easy throw for Derek Carr on play action to put it out there for Hunter Renfrow. I will say this with Hunter Renfrow, I have some questions. He's going to the ground on pretty much every catch at this point. I don't know why.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
He did it earlier in this game on a throw he needed to go down and made a nice catch on. But, this is a ball he should catch in stride and just keep running down the sideline for an even bigger play, but he goes to the ground. But this play in particular, this was set up all season, basically, and the Raiders got the right coverage. You have to run this against cover 3 with single high. If you run this against 2 high, it's not going to work because that backside safety is going to be standing right there. So credit to Josh McDaniels for dialing this up. Credit for Derek Carr to realize they're in the right coverage for this to work. And they got a big play. And this basically sealed the game at this point because this led to the final drive.
Harmon came through and the Raiders scored another defensive touchdown.
Yeah, the Raiders played a lot of cover 4 in this game. This is just more traditional cover 4 here. So the corners and the safeties are responsible for a fourth of the field deep. Harmon is reading the tight end here. There's not a slot receiver on his side of the field. So the outside corner is responsible for the wide receiver if he goes vertical outside the numbers, which leaves Harmon. He's basically looking for vertical routes coming up the seam with the tight end. That's exactly what happens. I don't know if Davis Mills just read this coverage wrong, but he throws this. If you watch Harmon at the snap, since there's no vertical threat in the slot, he just stands still. He takes a flat step read. He's not threatened vertically, so he just stands there and he reads this perfectly. He knows this route combination. I don't know if they've run this on tape, but Harmon clearly knew from this formation he wasn't going to get threatened deep vertically, and he steps right in front of this pass and takes it to the house for his first career pick 6. He's been around for 10 years. I didn't realize he hadn't scored a touchdown before.
Yeah, he looked like Jalen Richard in the open field on that one. I guess the Saints, he was out of there as far as that goes. So, cool stuff there. Thank you for that, Ryan. So I kind of took a look at the Saints, and I just listen. It's hard when you look at the Saints and you say to yourself, you can fall in love with one of their players. I think we both love Chris Olave, and he's gonna be a problem. So on this play here, you got 11 personnel, and you have Andy Dalton dropping back in the pass in the shotgun. He gets flushed out of the pocket, rolls right. And what I love about this play is that Olave he has his eyes to come back he has a sense to come back to the ball to help his quarterback. Quarterback is in trouble. It could be a throwaway in a lot of situations, but and Dalton is able to kind of evade the rush and get Olave, who is going to throws a low pass, but Olave goes to the ground, makes the catch. Good play by Chris Olave. He had 14 in this game. I think he had 14 targets and 7 receptions in the game against the Cardinals. So obviously, whether Michael Thomas plays or not, he's going to be a big part of what they do. The run defense is a big problem for them. We all know that they're giving up around 6-7 yards a carry. And they're one of the worst defensive teams as far as stopping your rush. So that could be a good thing for the Raiders. Here, you got Benjamin in the backfield here. The Raiders love these little delay runs with Josh Jacobs. You can see here, he just blasts right through the middle, and he's gone. I mean, it's just absolutely just picture perfect. Kind of look like the Raiders blocking the Texans in a lot of ways. And if Benjamin can do that, I think Josh Jacobs could definitely do it as well. Josh Jacobs also is a guy who I think could use a little break in some of these carries here as well, too, because he takes a lot of punishment as far as that goes. So big plays are going to be abound, I think, for both teams. I think as we break down this game, I kind of don't see what's the over-under on this one, because I kind of feel like it's going to be, I kind of think it's going to be
49, I think,
49,
which is the exact total I'm going to pick the game, by the way, later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of feel like that is something that you got to look at as well too. So as far as that goes, my last one would be you got to watch where number 7 is at all times when you're playing the Saints. He just kind of a nuisance as far as that goes. Taysom Hill, but here's a situation here where Taysom Hill and a combination of Alvin Kamara in space is a nightmare. And I think Kamara in space is a nightmare for the Raiders linebackers especially. So you see here, he kind of fakes like he's going to run up the middle, but then he throws it out to a screen on the outside to the right to Kamara, who ends up getting a nice gain here. But Kamara is special in space, and we all know that. So no breaking news there. Alvin Kamara is pretty good. Injury report for the Raiders here. What do you feel about the Raiders injury? So it seems like we're all waiting for Wall to get back. We know that part. What are your thoughts about this illness going around? Like, what's going on with they got I don't know. Some of these reporters said they had the flu. Did they give some of the Raiders the flu? What's going on? It seems the guy behind you got the flu as well. So how do you kind of manage that if you're Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, reports were today that everyone but Adams returned. So I think Abram was one, maybe Farrell. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. There was 3 guys. They all practiced. Adams is still out. Adams, they could just put in bubble wrap, put him on the plane, get him to New Orleans. He doesn't need to even practice tomorrow to play in this game. He just has to be ready to go on walk through Saturday, and then obviously suit up for 10 a.m. on Sunday. He's going to travel because they're staying on the East Coast because they're going to play Jacksonville next week. So I think Adams is playing in this game. He's definitely probably licking his chops knowing that Marshawn Lattimore didn't practice again today. The Saints are all banged up. It looks like they're going to get a couple offensive linemen back, but the big ones, Landry didn't practice for a second day. Michael Thomas didn't practice, and Lattimore's still out, and they're still missing a tight end and Troutman. So there are some key players on this Saints team that they're highly in question if they're going to play on Sunday.
Just some news around the league too. Jamar Chase is a hip. He likely headed to the IR. And then the Chiefs traded for Kadarius Toney. So they get that speed receiver they need. And from what you heard from a lot of people, like, then the first question we have too is that from everybody is that, what kind of deal will the Raiders do with the deadline? We've heard Jabril Prepper's name. We heard a lot of different names bandied about. If you had a preference, I'll ask you what your preference would be. I mean, for me, it probably would be secondary, because I think we kind of need somebody back there, and you probably need somebody back there who is familiar with what PG wants to do with this defense.
I would lean secondary. I know everyone wants defensive tackle. They want that interior pass rush. They're shooting the moon. You hear a lot of Raider fans asking for Deron Payne. Not only are you going to have to give up like a second or third round pick, you're going to have to turn around and give this guy a contract somewhere in the $10 to $12 million range over probably 4 years, 4 or 5 years. He's young. He's a good player. His PFF grades are in the high 50s, low 60s the last couple of years, but he does get home. He does have sacks. I thought it was very interesting because we talked after the game against the Texans, and we brought up one of the issues I had with the Raiders defense is they have guys that are good at man and guys that are good at zone. And that's the problem right now. And then Duron Harmon yesterday said the exact same thing. Asked Africa is like, hey, we have a lot of guys that can play man, but we need to be able to do both. We need to play zone because they're switching it up and they're playing a lot more man. But the problem is their corners right now, it's kind of a mixed bag. Like Rock Ya-Sin can do both, so I'm not worried about him. But Averett and Robertson, those are man guys. They're not zone guys. And you saw some of those struggles. Merrick is more of a, you would think that he'd be a zone guy. But he's probably more of a man guy, but he's struggling at both right now. Harmon's a zone guy. And then when you start talking about the linebackers, getting Jayon Brown back this week should help against Kamara because he's the only one that really has a chance to stay with him. But Perryman's a zone guy. Diablo's a man guy. Martinez is a zone guy. Like, you don't want Martinez and Perriman playing man.
No.
You don't want Diablo playing zone. You don't want Averett playing zone. So, like, there's a problem right now in the Raiders' back seven is just how do they match up week to week, because they don't have the right pieces to be able to go back and forth and be really good at something, because there's a deficiency in every defense they're calling right now because of just those guys' inability to play multiple different concepts.
Yep. So James from Sacramento, that was your question about the trade deadline. I think it has to be secondary. And I think if you can find somebody who played in his system, I think it'd be kind of get things going faster in the right direction. Another question from Sherry about Josh Jacobs' future. I think it's pretty much. I think we kind of laid it out last week. If this keeps going in this direction, I think you mentioned it. There got to be a franchise tag, and maybe you kind of negotiate a deal with him. Nobody wants to be franchised, so that's where the ownership and the GM structure, the front office has a little bit more power over the player.
Yeah, ideally you want to sign him to a team friendly, 3, 4, 5-year deal, probably 3 or 4 year deals because of the position, the running back position, but you're going to want it to average somewhere in the $6 million range. I'd be comfortable with, but he's not going to sign a deal for 4 years and $23, $24 million. That doesn't work for him. He's better off taking the franchise 1 year, 9.5. As a front office at that position, with how much they're using him, I would feel much more comfortable with the 1 year deal in case something happens, in case he gets injured. You're not stuck with him long term. And those running backs, as they accumulate year 5, year 6, they kind of break down and they're not the same player anymore. So Josh Jacobs probably wants that long-term deal. I can't see them just saying, okay, and letting him walk for nothing. But at the same time, they've already invested in Waller and Renfro and Carr. At some point, they have to start spending money on the other side of the field. I know that they did on Chandler Jones, but that's not working out. But they need to spend money in the back seven. Clearly, they need defensive tackles. So, like, can they really afford to give a long-term contract to another offensive player so we can continue to hear how bad the defense is, even though all the money's spent on offense?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Andrew, is this a resurgence from Cleveland Farrell, or is he just playing at an average level?
I'm going to say this is kind of what he was going to be when he came out of college. He was never the twitched up athlete pass rusher that you wanted. He was a guy that could set the edge. Carlos Dunlap was kind of the comp. Like, can he get you to 6 to 8 sacks and be a good run defender? Clearly, he's not in that 6 to 8 sack range as a pass rusher. It's probably more in the 3 or 4. But they can move him around. Is he playing up to the status of a first-round pick, let alone the number 4 pick? No, not even close. But can he be a rotational defensive end?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If he wants to sign a contract for a couple $1 million a year and be a sub-package player, then he fits. If he wants $10 million a year that he's getting right now, then he doesn't fit. It's that simple. It's what are you paying to get out of him? Clearly, they're not getting $10 million worth of production, but they're getting something.
Yeah, so that's fine. I agree with that as well, too. I think he's playing. He's given a little spark, which is like, what you can expect as well. Is the O-line there yet? Basically that. I don't know if they're there yet. I don't know if they're. I think that last week was a good performance. I think after the first couple of drives, they kind of dominated the game a little bit. Maybe some pressure here and there, but I do like what I saw from them, especially in the run game. If they can just be, they don't have to be 7 yards a clip running the football. If they're just, 5 yards, 6 yards, 4.5, that's all this offense needs to be able to have the threat of play action, to be able to get the ball to Renfro, get the ball to Waller, get the ball to Adams, get the ball to my man with no shoes, all the Hollins. So I don't know how you feel about it, but they seem to be making strides. But it's a week to week thing when you're not a top flight offensive line.
Yeah, it's clearly going to be week to week. It's going to be based on matchups. This week, Houston did not have a very good defense. They did not have a formidable front seven, so they pushed them around. They did okay against Kansas City. They're exceeding expectations. Are they there yet? I don't think they're there yet, because I think the next step is Thayer Munford, who's played really well the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Inserting him into the lineup, and then you have 2 rookies. But is this team going to go out every week and give up 5 pressures, no sacks, and run for 7 yards a clip? No, there's not an offensive line in the league that's going to do that. So to expect that out of this offensive line that's compensated at the bottom of the league as far as what they're paying these players. I mean, you basically have Colton Miller and a bunch of, I mean, Andre James getting $2 million, but you have 2 rookies and probably a veteran minimum guy in bars. So are they getting the most out of what they have? I would say they're close to maximizing the talent they have there, but the next step is Munford getting in and having the same kind of success he's shown in spurts, but doing it for 60 snaps a game.
Yeah. Let's see here. Andy wants to know where's Sam Webb. I was like, oh,
witness protection. I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I thought maybe he had a couple. I thought he had some decent snaps against the Chiefs, but he has not. He has been in witness protection, no question about it. As far as that goes, yeah.
He wasn't even the gunner on special teams this week.
Yeah.
It was Abdullah. So like, he was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of nuts. I have no,
especially with Averett struggling as much as he did last week.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. That's it for the questions as far as that goes. So let's kind of look at the Saint game. We know I'm down on the whole story. You know, I remember him playing coy about him or Matt Schaub when it were back in the day, and he ended up starting Carr, and then we've had Carr ever since. ever since as quarterback, they are kind of a weird team because you see the talented pieces, but on defense, they have not played well. They really, I mean, I watched 3 games. You can move the football on them, no problem. I think the one thing that I'm looking forward to is seeing how this offensive line reacts to the noise in that dome. Whether the Saints are bad or good, they always show up to watch the Saints play. So that will be something to see there. What are your kind of initial thoughts here about the Raiders going to the Bayou?
Yeah, the first thing I go to is that defensive side of the ball, because that's been a strength. That's what Dennis Allen knows. He's coordinated that defense, but I'm looking at the depth chart. I'm seeing not a lot of guys inside as far as run defenders along the defensive line. So I think he can run the ball between the tackles. Marcus Davenport hasn't had a good year. I would try to run away from Cam Jordan as much as I could. He's going to be the guy they have to look out for. Demario Davis is still a playmaker, so you got to know where he's at. Where's 56 at all times? But when I look at the secondary, if Lattimore doesn't play, Bradley Roby went on IR. They're basically going to run out their Paulson Adebo out of Stanford, who I believe is a second-year player. They don't have another corner listed on their roster. I'm looking at the depth chart. So they have 6 safeties listed on their roster, but I only see 3 corners. So I would attack this secondary. Basically, if I'm Derek Carr, when I line up, where's Cam Jordan? Where's Demario Davis? Where's Tyrann Mathieu? I need to know where those 3 guys are, and I'm attacking the other side of the field.
Yeah, exactly.
So Marcus May is still a decent player at safety. So I don't know if they're going to be chucking the ball down the field unless they get those looks where they get one-on-one outside. This could be a game where Darren Waller could eat over the middle of the field. But I really expect them to run the football. You can't let Cam Jordan destroy the game. The noise inside that dome is going to be loud. So the Raiders just need to take the air out of that stadium, pound the rock, and do what they did last week. Play action, play action, play action.
Yeah, and it just makes all the sense in the world to keep doing that. I think the Raiders defense is going to have to just mix it up. They have a stationary target. So this is going to be second week in a row they have a stationary target. As far as that goes, I don't think Andy Dalton, who is not going to confuse anybody for Josh Allen, but can make plays in this league. He can make throws. Some of those INTs last week were off receivers' hands, so it wasn't like it was all his fault. He had one where he really stared down Chris Olave, and there was an obvious pick there. But he's a veteran who can make plays. He's been able to. He's seen all the defenses. He's a guy who made the playoffs 4 years in a row with the Bengals. But again, he's still Andy Dalton, and the Raiders do have to. I think when you have opportunities to do this, and I think the problem is when they do blitz, there's a couple. I think it was a time when they blitzed in the game and Diablo didn't get back in time to cover Cooks, right? That
was a bad design more than anything.
It was a bad design. Yeah, bad design. So yeah, bad design. But still, yeah. And he also talked about not blitzing from too much depth as well too. Like if you're in a blitz, go ahead and be close to the line of scrimmage. Defense, offense. What do the Raiders defense have to do? to kind of stop this team. I think it all starts with him. Much I love Olave. It kind of starts with 41, right?
Yeah, they have to stop the run. They have to stop Kamara. They have to start Mark Ingram. They have to defend when Taysom Hill comes in, but be cognizant that Hill can throw. Like, so I'm not crashing everyone when Hill comes in because they may just pop you over the top. Dennis Allen's going to have something up his sleeve in this game to get back at the Raiders, having gone through what he did as their coach. The key to this game to me is they got to get out to a 10, 14-point lead, take the run out of this, and just attack Andy Dalton, attack the left side of that line. Chandler Jones, where are you? It's Andy Dalton, and you're going up against James Hurst. I need you to show up this week. Max Crosby's on the other side going against Ramchek's a pretty good right tackle. He was injured last week, but he is practicing. And someone on the inside's got to eat against Cesar Ruiz and Andres Pete, but they're going to be able to get home. I wouldn't blitz this team that much because I don't want to leave Kamara matched up if he gets out of the backfield in space. I'm not worried about the outside guys, the receivers on this team. I think you're going to see the Raiders play a lot more zone this week and just rally and tackle because Andy Dalton is the type of quarterback. He's going to check the ball down. He's going to throw the ball in the flat. And what you don't want is you don't want him to throw the ball in the flat and miss tackle Kamara against 20. The Raiders have the corners that can play. Like Rocky Sin's a really good tackler. He's a physical guy. Like those guys can come up and be run defenders or tackle guys in open space. It's going to be really interesting to see. Yeah, I like Rocky Sin.
Yeah, good season.
Started playing Madden 23. I re-signed Rocky Sin this morning. I started yesterday.
You're already in the sexy. You're in the off season already.
No, I just started and it was like week 3, and they're like, "You want to re-sign?"
Okay. Oh,
so I'm like, "Sure, I'll sign it."
On that note, the PS2 is 22 years old now today. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think Jarvis Landry is going to play. I don't think Mike Thomas is going to play. So the Raiders, this is going to be similar to last week, but the one guy they have to know, where's 41? If they split him out, how are they going to match up? If he's in the slot, if he's outside, watch for those tunnel screens. Like I said, I don't think with Chandler Jones and Max Crosby back there, I don't think Andy Dalton's taking 5 and 7 step drops and they're throwing this thing 15, 20 yards down the field. If they want to do that, let them do it. I'm making sure I'm not getting beat underneath. We talked about it last week about Houston. What did Houston want to do? They wanted to throw the ball to the backs and the tight ends. Well, guess what they did? They threw the ball to the backs and the tight ends. And they let them do that. So this is going to be interesting because they went cover 4 last week, a lot of cover 1. What does Patrick Graham have up his sleeve this week? I'm thinking more cover 3, get 4 underneath defenders, maybe some cover 2, get 5 underneath defenders, make Andy Dalton throw the ball down the field.
Somebody did do a text line and they talked about a lot of times in this game they saw Martinez and Perryman playing together. What is yes.
They did in base.
They did in base, yeah, but like that's first down and then it's out. And then he's out of there as far as that goes. Yeah, you can't do that for too long as far as that goes. Yeah.
No, they did. They matched up when they went heavy personnel. They went 21 personnel. Blake Martinez played the Sam linebacker because Jayon Brown was out. They were never on the field together in nickel. That never happened. They were rotating the 3 of them, so it was Diablo and either Perryman or Martinez, but they were never on the field together during nickel that I remember.
The Raiders buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. You think that obviously this game is before the November 1st, so if they win this game, then maybe they think about it. Any chance that they try to go out there and get an offensive lineman?
I don't see this group like there's not difference makers out there. I know Raider fans want to go crazy on Twitter and think that they're getting Roquan Smith and Deron Payne and the best offensive lineman on the market. Like those guys aren't getting traded, and this team's not in a position to leverage future draft picks to do that.
They can't.
There's no Devontae Adams out there that's going to come in and change how you play offense. They need defensive players. That's where they need to spend money. I think at this point, you've seen the offensive line do enough to where like you're okay with that for the rest of the season. Now, if someone gets hurt, that completely changes the equation. But at this point, they need a guy that can get after the passer on third down from the interior. They're stopping the run. They're the 3rd best run defense in the league. Or they need a guy in the secondary. I don't think they've tried a ton of different linebackers at this point. And the fact they haven't gone to Masterson and they have Butler that are still there too. They haven't played either one of those guys. I just don't see them doing it. Like you said, secondary, because you can always put Abram up and have him play linebacker, nickel, and dime, where he probably needs to be and not in deep coverage. So bigger ish. If they're going to do anything to me, it's going to be
secondary,
either a safety or a corner.
Yeah, gotta be a secondary player. It just has to be if they're going to do that. But it will be interesting to see what they do. You mentioned playing a cover 3. This could be a game where, maybe if that front four if everyone's a game where the front four can raise havoc, this would be a nice day, a nice week for it. I know Bilal Nichols had some good reps last week. Hopefully that continues where they can get some more pressure, especially up the middle. I think a guy like Andy Dalton would not want to be able to get that pressure in his face, if you will. And then you also have Crosby screaming around the corner. It would be nice to see a couple of sacks by somebody not named Max Crosby in this game as well.
Yeah, and so far it's been Nate Hobbs, and he's on IR, so he's not coming off the corner.
We go undefeated in the Nate Hobbs games, and the lack of Nate Hobbs games. Maybe we'd be all right. But Hobbs is you see it now that Hobbs was such. We all knew he was a big part of this defense, but they kind of need him back as soon as possible. I think it'll be 3 more weeks at least.
I'd like to see Rock Ya-Sin. I know the Raiders corners don't travel, but whenever he has Olave on his side, be physical, get up, press him, interrupt his routes. Don't let him get off the line with a free release and into space, because he's a really smooth route runner and he's got speed. Maybe when they want to go to too high, then they shade obviously to whatever side Olave is, because he's the deep threat on this team. But I'm interested to see what Patrick Graham's going to do, because he's changed up the defense pretty much every week. I don't know if he's giving these guys too much, to where they're playing so many different defenses from week to week that they basically can't figure out their assignments based on formations and shifts and motions. Maybe this is the week where they just go back and do some basic defenses, but not with Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton's too smart. He's been around too long to just play 1 or 2 defenses. So we'll see what they do here. They've disguised a lot on 3rd down. They just didn't get off the field on 3rd down.
Yeah, and I also think that there will be. You mentioned the big crowd there. I know when the season started, this was a huge travel game for Raider Nation. So I do think a lot of East Coast Raider fans in the South. Obviously, it's still gonna be a majority Saint fans, but they're gonna be a loud presence for the Raider fans there as well too in this game, because who's gonna turn down a trip to New Orleans? Not many people. The food and the drinking.
I circled this game. If this game took place in September, I would have been there. This is just the wrong week, and I couldn't travel this week, and so will not be there. But I did circle it on the schedule. Like, this is the one I want to go to as well. So I understand. I could see 35% Raider fans there.
No question. Some around the division real quick. The Chargers, no
Mike Williams.
No Mike Williams, and also no J.C. Jackson as well too. So and we all know about Bosa as well. So they got some injuries there. We talk about the Chiefs getting Tony, Denver. Besides working out on the plane, I don't know what's going on there. He got the obligatory, what is it called? The coach got the go win one for the Gipper. Like, hey, you're our coach, you're our guy. You're right. If they get embarrassed,
support.
The vote of support, it's not going to happen. If they get, he might end up being fired this season. If they go out there and they get smashed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, that could be they might leave him out there with Ted Lasso in England,
or Dennis Allen. Was left in London days ago. I can see the Broncos being sellers here too. If they lose this game, are they 2-5? So they would be 2-6. I don't know. I don't think they've had their bye yet.
There'll be 5. There'll be a 5-game losing streak.
So then Bradley Chubb becomes available. Yes. I think he's a good player, but he's an elite edge rusher where you can give him 18, 20 million. I don't think he fits in that category. His agent probably think he is, but I'm not paying him $20 million a year. Jerry Jeudy, there's a lot of rumblings. KJ Hamler. They've already paid Sutton. They already paid Tim Patrick. So they can't pay 4 wide receivers. So they need draft picks. So they traded them all for Russ, and Russ is cooked at this point.
Yeah, no question about it. So I'm not. It's like I said, this division. I think what's happening in the AFC East is what we thought the AFC West was going to be, because all those teams are way over 500. But I think I tweeted out today that there's only one game this week that with two teams who are over 500, which is the Giants and the Seahawks. Like if you put money on that, good for you. As far as that goes. Anything else on the Saints and Raiders? I know it's prediction time coming up here for us as far as who we think is going to win. Who do you think is going to win this game?
I would add, and this will never happen, but if the Broncos want to trade Justin Simmons, I'll take him in a Raiders uniform, but they're never going to trade him in the division.
They should. To us.
This Saints game, if it goes down how we're thinking, where these players for the Saints aren't going to play, I'm going to have a hard time not picking the Raiders. So I'm going to, at this point, it's Thursday. Those guys haven't practiced. I'm going to assume that they're not going to play. So if Lattimore, Landry, and Thomas don't play, I'm going to take the Raiders. It's going to be closer than people want. I'm going to say 26-23, late field goal from Daniel Carlson. I think these teams are going to move the ball up and down the field, and it's who's going to get the stops in the red zone, who's going to score touchdowns, who's going to kick field goals.
Yep.
And I trust Daniel Carlson at this point. The dude's automatic. And I think this could be the week where we see the Raiders offense has had 4 opportunities to get a W with the ball in the final 2 minutes. They haven't been able to do it. I can see this is the week that they do it. I hope they win 30-7, but I don't see it. I think the Saints can still move the ball with Kamara, Olave, Taysom Hill. I could see him throwing a couple of passes here, trying to catch the Raiders off guard. Special teams, the Raiders coverage units haven't been that good up to this point. Their return game hasn't been good, either punt return or kick return. So field position hasn't been in the Raiders' favor. So I think this is still going to be a hard-fought game. Cam Jordan's still over there, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu. Like, this team still has some players. Yeah. I just think the Raiders' offense is clicking so well right now. They're going to figure out a way to win this game.
Yeah, and I do think that with the team, the talent they have, I think when you look at this team, the Saints, if the Raiders are able to win this game, I really think that in their mind, if I was a Saints fan at 2-6, as crazy as that division is, still, I mean, you got quarterback options and you don't got a quarterback on this team, you might be really thinking about like what to really do with the future. I don't think that this whole year is going to be an indictment on Dennis Allen. I think they'll get down Dennis Allen another year. As far as that goes, I don't see, besides Sean Payton, I don't see a big name coming out. I'm going to, even in the pick segment, I'm going to pick the Raiders in this game. Kind of the same thing, along the lines of you, 27-24. The Raiders coming out on top here. Late touchdown in this game. As far as that goes, I think Matt Hollins will probably get it. Who knows? I mean, he loves him in the red zone, so we'll see. And if Waller plays, it could be if all the allotment of Raider weapons play in this game, I think that, and then the whole injury list stays the same with the Saints, I think it could be a 2-score game. But I do think the Raiders are going to score points in this ball game. They're going to give up some as well. You know how the Raiders do half the game, they give up everything, and a quarter and a half they shut everybody out. I can see that happening again. But I think this is the time they finally beat Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is 3-0 against the Raiders, and Derek Carr is 2-0 against the Saints. So that's kind of how it goes right now between those two quarterbacks there.
Yeah, the Saints have the second worst scoring defense in the league at 28.6 points a game. However, there was 2 pick sixes, and I want to say Winston threw a pick 6 early in the season. I could be wrong, but there might be 3 touchdowns tacked on there that are going against the defense that the offense actually gave away. So I think that number is a little misleading to look up there and see that they're basically just ahead of the Lions. I don't think that they're that bad. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think that they're that good either.
Yes, they're not. They got players. They got players who, and who knows? Maybe after this game, you might be able to call them about a running back or a defensive end or somebody like that on this team as well too. So we'll see what happens there. You have anything else? If you have anything else for the Saints Raiders, we can go to the picks. You want to go to the picks?
No, I'm ready to do picks. I'm on a roll the last couple of weeks.
We got to do.
I'm ready to pick some games.
So before next show, before next pick show, we got to do the full record. My record is horrible right now, but we had to go back and do the full record. So I'm gonna go first real quick. I will go The Vikings are favored at Arizona. I think the Vikings are a better team in Arizona. I think that they are more, I'm more confident in what they do than what Arizona does. But I do think that they're, getting DeAndre Hopkins back. I do think that that's gonna kind of even the playing field a little bit. I think they cover that 3.5. Now, I'm not saying I don't think they're gonna win that game, but I think they'll cover the 3.5 that the Vikings are getting. So we have.
So you're taking the Cardinals or Vikings?
Taking the Cardinals to cover the 3.5. I like the Raiders to. If you get 1.5, I like the Raiders to win the game. So go ahead and take that. I think the Raiders win. Yeah, I think it was 1.5, right? Or no?
I'm trying to find it. I think that sounds right.
Yeah, 1.5.
It's an early game. I'm looking at the late game, so I got to. It is 1.5.
1.5. So I see the pen.
The Raiders are
popping,
laying 1.5.
Right. So the Raiders are favored by 1.5. So I will take that. I think the Rams to beat the Niners. All you have to do against Shanahan is be up by 3 after 3 quarters. He's 1-30 in those games. So so my guys are real. Yeah, it is real. Shout out to Grant Cohen as well. So I do like the Rams in that game. And then I'm gonna go with fourth one. I'm gonna go the Jaguars beating the Broncos. I think the Broncos are done. The Broncos are done. And I would definitely like to see the Jaguars win one more game before they play the Raiders. I like those long losing streaks as far as that goes. So I got the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Rams over the 49ers, and then I have the Jaguars here in London to beat the Broncos. What you got?
I'm going to go Titans at the Texans. I just watched the Texans run defense on film. They have the slowest linebackers in the league. They can't run at all.
What's the line?
2.5. So Titans minus 2.5 at Houston. They just need to turn around and give the ball to Derrick Henry. They'll win this game by 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
So I'm going to take the Titans. This Houston team is not very good. Maybe it's recency bias because I just watched them get run over by Josh Jacobs. But Josh Jacobs he got 143 yards and 20 carries and never had a carry over 15 yards. It was 7, 8, 10 consistently.
Yeah.
What is Derrick Henry going to do to this team?
Exactly.
I'm big into the numbers, not the team. So I don't care who's playing, but if you're going to give me 11 points, I'm going to take it. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh
Packers.
plus 11 against the Eagles. So Steelers plus 11 at the Eagles. The Steelers defense is still playing all right. They can run the football a little bit. Philly's been on a roll, but I don't know if they're going to win by 2 touchdowns. So I think Mike Tomlin team is going to go in there and at least compete. I think that's a huge number. And unless Mitch Trubisky's playing and we don't know about it, like as long as they don't turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, I don't see them losing by 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
I'm going to take the Packers. You're going to give me Aaron Rodgers and 11.5 points at Buffalo. I know Buffalo's been really good, but I think they beat the Chiefs by 3. So this is going to be a game where Aaron Rodgers, after all the criticism last week and him, telling they need to simplify, the guys that are not doing their assignments shouldn't play. They're going to turn around and hand the ball to Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I think they keep this competitive. I think Buffalo wins, but 11.5 points. Aaron Rodgers and 11.5. I'll take that. And if we're going to do a 4th game, I'm going to take the Dolphins against the Fighting Dan Campbells.
Yes.
I got a line of -3 here. The Lions scored 0 against the Patriots and 6 last week. They haven't scored in 2 weeks. The defense is the worst defense in the league. And Tua, the Dolphins are 4-0 with Tua, and they have to figure out how to guard Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Yeah. Give me the Dolphins. And the Dolphins defense is okay. It's not bad. So like, I just think that number is a little misleading. It's only 3. So obviously I don't have the hook. I don't have a half point anywhere. So they're going to have to win by 4 or I push, but I'll take the Dolphins -3.
Cool. Put on Raiders podcast. Dwayne Douglas here, Ryan Holmes. So I'm going to thank the people who are listening in Los Angeles, California, Carlsbad, California, Phoenix, Arizona, Tacoma, Washington, Winnipeg, Las Vegas, Nevada, of course, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and Barrington, Rhode Island. So be aware of these city names because I'm going to do something with these city names in the future. So for those who listen to the whole show, there's going to be something with the city names coming up soon. So in the next couple of weeks. So definitely pay attention to that. But all those cities who listen to us, thank you for listening to the show as well. Anything else before we head out?
I would add, if Diet Coke is on the call, I drink one every episode, so feel free to sponsor the show and send some free Diet Coke to me.
Exactly.
No, other than that, I think the Raiders have played well the last 3 weeks. They got 2 wins. They lost the game by a point. If Josh McDaniels just kicks the extra point, could have been 3 wins.
This is the game.
Now they have to go on the road and win. They have to win the next 2 games.
They're 0 for the road, right? They're 0 for the road. Yeah. So that's kind of another reason why I think they'll win this game, is because they're 0 for the road. And this is a big game. If they win this game, then it's a reason to think that, okay, then we can start thinking about, beating Denver and beating Denver and beating the Colts, who are playing a backup quarterback, and beating Jacksonville. So all those things are within striking distance, but they got to win this game first. All right, Ray Nation, take care. We'll see you next time on the Put On Raiders podcast. Peace.
Take care.